Forget the intro, boys. Let's hop right into the early web tips. All you need to do is survive. Making sure you always put yourself in the best position to survive is more important than getting your hands on all 3 Salaiwas in the first raid or whatever item it is you currently need. Getting into fights in Escape From Tarkov is obviously inevitable, but you should always try to avoid them as nothing really good comes out of it during the early levels. The players you will be fighting are going to have very basic gear that you will not want anyway, and anything of value will be shoved into the person pocket. Everybody does it, including myself. If I don't get that found in raid Salaiwa, you won't be getting it either. Those fights will inevitably lead to you getting third-party by other PMCs or player scavs, and even if you come out as a winner in that situation, you will have a hard time carrying out their loot due to small rigs and backpacks that we have access to during the lower levels. And not to mention the weight that you will be carrying, which makes us even more vulnerable due to us having to take a breather every 4 or 5 steps that we take. Obviously, players will have stuff that you need for your quests or hideout, but nothing you cannot find on your own in the 20 or 30 minutes that you spend in the raid. So if possible, just avoid the fights. You will definitely end up in situations where you need to fight your way out just to survive, and by all means, go for it, take them out. But like I said, people will hear it and they will come to check out the noise, and by the time you have fixed your heavy bleeds and reattached your limbs, someone will have eyes on the area that you were fighting in, so looting becomes very dangerous. Obviously, every single situation is different. Use your best judgment. One thing I would recommend doing is if you have a chance to grab someone's dog tag, at least take that. You will be needing quite a few down the line just for some of the quests. Friend from the West Part 1 is one of such quests where you need to kill 7 PMCs and hand over 7 USAC dog tags. Having some of those dog tags ready to hand over just as soon as you get the quest will make your life easier in the long run, as you will not have to go and risk getting those dog tags in unfavorable situations. Another quest that requires you to kill PMCs early is Stirrup. I recommend avoiding that quest altogether. It's an annoying quest. Killing 3 PMCs with pistols can lead to a lot of brain cells lost. And last swipe, I did it eventually. I did it at level 48 and I unlocked it at level 8. So you can imagine how long I was just avoiding it because it's a pointless quest. It doesn't lead to any other quest. So you do not have to do it unless you're going for Kappa eventually. Making sure you have a plan before you enter a raid is extremely crucial. Maybe you're looking for a specific item for a hideout, bolts, nuts, or you're looking for a flash drive. Whatever it is, instead of just hoping for the best every single time you enter the raid, plan out a rough route in your head for you to follow. I say rough because there are obviously many factors you will not be able to control, such as your spawn point or the movements of other players, but having that route will allow you to just leave once you have accomplished your goals for said raid. If you're unfamiliar with the maps, then I highly recommend you just using EFT Wiki. They provide both interactive maps and very highly detailed 3D maps, which are super easy to follow. Just Google EFT Wiki Customs, for example. Alternatively, you can use Map Genie, but EFT Wiki does it all these days. Having a map open on your second monitor or your phone, for example, will save you quite a few brain cells. When I first started, I used to just constantly alt-tab to check the map just to see where I was. If you plan on doing that as well, make sure to change your game mode to borderless to avoid getting the annoying black screen for a few moments every single time you alt-tab. Just might save your life. But when you are deciding a route, I recommend taking into account the high traffic areas, unless you specifically have to go there. Some locations in Tarkov are extremely dangerous due to the amount of foot traffic they get. Reasons for high traffic can be either just a frequent route or rotation, they spawn a specific quest item, or they are known for having a decent amount of scavs around, which also are needed for some quests, or dailies or weeklies and so on and so forth. Some of you have no idea of those locations, and unfortunately there is no way for you to learn them all in an instant. Just make sure you don't sprint everywhere, so you limit the amount of noise you make. Have at least half of your stamina bar available for running in case someone does take shots at you, and try to always move in cover so you can avoid getting shot from multiple directions at once. Sorry to say, but you're just gonna have to learn it the hard way, just like we all did. All that being said though, most important thing is to enjoy the game you are playing. If any of my tips get in the way of you having fun, just ignore it. It's okay to go into raid with the sole intention of just destroying every single thing in sight. Just have fun, my friend. Did you know that 100% of you do not care about the percentage of people who have subscribed to this channel? So let's carry on with the video. FOMO, aka fear of missing out, is cringe. Greed consumes us all at some point, and the fear of missing out on a potential Lytics or a potential Salaiwa in some place is a great way to get killed. If you find something of value, may it be a Taz you need for Skier or one of the flash drives early in the raid, it's okay to just leave. Getting those small wins really adds up in the long run if you manage to do it consistently. Of course, it is okay to loot on your way to the extraction, check a few stashes here and there, and maybe a duffel bag or whatever, but I would highly recommend picking up the pace a little and avoiding the more populated areas. Obviously, you need to make sure you do not get a run through. You need to spend at least 7 minutes in the raid or get around 200 experience. That does not include the experience gained from the extraction itself. I will throw the link to this image in the description. This shows every single item you need for your quest. The ones highlighted in green have to be found in raid, but the ones that are gray you can either purchase from the flea market or throw into your secure container, so even if you die you can still use them for the quests later down the line. Do not forget about your hideout, my friends. Leveling up the stations in your hideout takes a lot of effort, but it is well worth it. Not just the bonuses you will get from the stations, but also the stuff you can craft for your quest specifically. Every single item you craft in your hideout counts as found in raid, meaning the Salewas you need can be crafted in med station level 1. 360 rounders for ice cream cones, those can be crafted in lavatory 2 and so on. Eventually you will unlock some really high tier ammunition as well. Those are the 17 to 18 hour crafts, so they take a lot of time, but you would start those at the end of the day when you're done playing. While you are playing, the 30-minute to an hour crafts are perfect. I say they're perfect because every single time you complete a craft, they level up your crafting, which in return speeds up your crafts and basically everything in your hideout, only exception being the Bitcoin farm. While crafting, you also level up your hideout management. This decreases your fuel, air, and water filter consumption and increases the bonuses from your hideout zones, leading to increased profits from your crafts, which is another benefit from your hideout. Crafting for profit. Every single wipe, I find myself 1 or 2 items in each station that I can rotate between, and then I will sell said items on the flea market for euros. The reason is that I need 25,000 euros later on for solar power. And there is also a quest from Peacekeeper which requires me to hand over 50,000 euros, but that is optional, obviously. And you do not have to sell them for euros. My whole point is that there is a lot of profit to be made from your hideout if you can find the right crafts. Just don't forget to take into account the flea market fee as well when you're selling. If there is one thing you should rush towards in your hideout, though, it is the library. Library gives you 15% additional raid experience every single raid and 30% boost for your practical skills such as searching, surgery, and macros, for example. There is a longer list, but some of them aren't even in the game yet. Also, every single level in your hideout management increases that bonus by 1% of the 15%. That is not a additional 1%, but 1% of the 15%. It doesn't sound like much, but it really adds up as you level up and play more and more raids. Another station to rush as soon as possible is the air filtering unit. It increases your experience gain for physical skills by 40%. Once again increased by the hideout management skill as well. So if you ever want to get elite endurance or strength, then air filtering unit is a must. You just have to make sure you always add the filter into it as well. So do not forget about your hideout. If you get ahead of a majority of the player base and unlock some of the crafts that other players don't have, you can make a pretty solid profit by just clicking a few buttons every few hours. Or if you don't care for profit, at the very least you can craft yourself some very much needed found in raid quest items. Sell to flea market as often as possible. Most of you know that you need money spent with traders just to level them up, but what many people don't think about is selling the items on the flea market and then using that money on the traders. For example, if you sell an item to trader for 25,000 rubles, that obviously counts as 25,000 rubles spent with said trader. But if that same item can be sold on flea market for, let's say, 70,000, you could potentially spend a lot more money on the traders by using that 70,000 to buy yourself guns, armor, or whatever else it is that you need. Also, selling on flea market increases your flea market rep as well, leading to more flea market slots so you can sell more items at once, meaning you can clear out your stash even faster. So sell the flea if you make more money that way and then spend that money on the traders. Makes sense, right? Also, another thing that people don't realize is that barters also count as money spent with the traders. For example, I don't really ever buy anything from Jaeger, maybe like an SKS or 2 during the earlier levels, but bartering for the thermal bag so you can store food in it, or the dog tag case so you can store dog tags, can drastically increase the money spent with them and also help out with the stash management at the same time. I recommend that you check the barters every single time you level up a trader. They can have some pretty cool stuff in there. If not for stash management, maybe some guns or armor or backpacks. Always take a look at the barters. And finally, we have arrived at stash management. This is mostly aimed towards the standard account players since they have the smallest stashes, but even the EOD users can run out of space pretty fast, especially if they have a hoarding problem like I do. That is why your first big purchase should always be the Lucky Scav junk box from level 1 Therapist. It is a container that takes 16 slots in your stash but gives you 196 in return, and it can store pretty much every single item in the game, all the barter items like nuts, bolts, circuit boards, LEDXs, you get the idea. It does cost you 1.1 million rubles, which is a lot of money in the early wipe, but it is 100% worth it, and so are the 99% of the containers in the game. They are worth buying or bartering for, especially for the standard account players, like I said, because they have such a tiny stash base. I personally buy myself 2 Lucky Scav junk boxes early, since I like to hoard as many items as possible, especially since daily and weekly quests require to have some really random items, so it's always nice to have them at hand if possible, and one of them will be used later on for building the scav case station in my hideout. So I might as well get an extra one early and use it for storage. storage. But if you are struggling for cash, don't worry about getting the second one. Most of us can get by with just one lucky scav junk box, but I would say one is minimum. Also, do not forget to utilize the rigs and backpacks for storage. If you right click a rig or a backpack, it tells you how many slots it has. Some of them have an extra 3 or 4 slots in the storage compared to how many they take in your stash. It's not much, but it really helps you during the earlier levels. I will make a leveling guide separately, but here are some tips to level up more efficiently. First things first, we all start with the defective wall in our hideout, meaning we have to mop the floor to reduce the penalties from it. One of those penalties is -3 experience from your raids. Doesn't sound like much, but it really adds up, so make sure to mop the floor with the Flea's fabric when necessary, and try to upgrade that area into the gym as soon as possible. Another massive boost to your experience is just surviving. Every time you successfully extract, you gain an extra 30% experience on top of the experience you already accumulated in the raid. To make sure you gain as much XP as possible in raids, try to kill scavs with headshots, and if possible, press search on their bodies for an extra 100 or 200 experience. Same with players as well. The experience gain is based on the amount of gear on them or rarity of the items in their pockets. So if you kill a scav and you gain 250 experience from them, good chance they have something of value in their pockets. But you do not have to fully loot them. Just go up to their body, press search, and you get the XP immediately. As you can see on the bottom right of the screen, you can just leave right after if you want. That's what I usually do. But also dragging their rigs or whatever into your backpack can give you a small chunk of XP as well. You can do that and then just drop the stuff immediately if that's something you want to do. I personally cannot be asked. Also, I highly recommend combining your daily or weekly quests with the existing quest line. Meaning if you have to go woods for Jaeger and you get a daily quest to kill 5 scavs on woods or extract 3 times on woods, that is perfect. But if instead the game asks you to go and find 10 scavs on Lighthouse, then that is just not worth your time if you don't have anything else to do on Lighthouse. Better to either replace it or just skip it entirely. Just be aware that replacing your dailies and weeklies can result in a reputation loss with the said trader. Only exception to this would be if you get a reward for something you need. For example, I always look out for the tank batteries or flash drives if I still need them. Whatever it may be, just use your best judgment if you need the item. But in some scenarios, it might be worth going out of your way to do certain dailies that don't always line up with the main quest line. But that about sums it up. I hope you found something of value in this video. Thank you for watching and have a great wipe, my friends. Take care.